Right now, somewhere on this planet, a person who hunts and gathers every single bite of their food by hand is doing less work than you are. Maybe 4 hours. Then they are done. Meanwhile, it's Sunday night, and you can already feel it coming. That low hum of dread in your stomach, because tomorrow the alarm goes off in the dark. You pour yourself into a car or a train, you sit under fluorescent lights for 8 hours minimum, and you do it again, and again, and again, until you're old enough that they finally let you stop. Here's what nobody told you. That feeling is not a personal failing. It's not because you're lazy, or soft, or bad at work-life balance. It's because almost nothing about your day is how a human being was built to live. For roughly 300,000 years, your ancestors woke up with no alarm, no boss, no commute, and no clock, and no idea what a job even was. And the part that should genuinely mess with you is this. They almost certainly worked fewer hours than you do. So what did they actually do all day? What fills a day when there is no work to go to? That is what the next 12 minutes are about. By the end, you'll understand why your whole body fights Monday morning, and why the 8-hour clocked workday you think of as just how life is actually a brand new invention, younger than the United States. If that hooks you, subscribe. This whole channel is about the strange, buried reasons you are the way you are, traced straight back to the people you came from. Now, back to the question. What did a day look like before there were days off? Start with what's missing, because the absences are the whole story. There was no alarm clock, because there was nothing to be late for. There was no commute, because where you slept and where you got your food were the same world. There was no boss, because nobody owned the land, the food, or your time. There was no weekend, not because they never rested, but because every day already had rest folded into it. And there was no retirement, because there was no grind to be released from. The entire shape of your week, the 5 on, 2 off, countdown to Friday rhythm that runs your life, would have meant nothing to them. It simply did not exist. Now, you might assume that no jobs meant a brutal, desperate scramble, clawing at the dirt from sunrise to sundown just to not die. That's the picture in your head, and it's almost completely wrong. Anthropologists have spent decades living with the few groups of humans who still forage the old way. The Hadza in the dry savanna of Tanzania, the Ju hoansi in the Kalahari Desert of southern Africa. People who still get most of their food by hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants, the way every single human did for almost all of human history. And when researchers actually followed them around with stopwatches and counted the time, the number that came back stunned people. Roughly 2 to 5 hours a day. That was it. On subsistence foraging specifically, finding food and getting it back to camp, the average came out to somewhere around 2 to 5 hours. The numbers have been argued over ever since. Critics point out that cooking and toolmaking add hours that the early counts left out. But even the higher estimates rarely touch 8. Sit with that, because it's a punch. You, with your refrigerator, your supermarket, your microwave, and the entire machinery of modern civilization working for you, very likely spend more of your waking life working than a person who has to find every bite of food in the open wilderness with their bare hands. An anthropologist named Sahlins looked at this and gave it a name that still stings. He called foragers the original affluent society. Not because they had a lot, because they wanted little, and so they were rich in the one thing you're always out of: time. So if they weren't working all day, what were they doing? Walk through it, hour by hour. The first thing to understand is that the work they did do wasn't a job. It was a task. There's a difference, and you feel it in your bones. A job is a block of time you owe to someone else, whether or not there's anything useful to do in it. You can run out of work at 3 in the afternoon and still have to sit there until 5, performing busy. A task is the opposite. You do the thing, and when the thing is done, you stop. Your ancestors lived entirely in tasks. Go find food. Found it. Done. Mend the spear. Mended. Done. There was no sitting in a chair pretending to forage because the sun wasn't down yet. And that's the part to be careful about, so this doesn't turn into a fairy tale. When the foraging was finished, the day wasn't suddenly pure leisure. There was still toolmaking. There was still mending. There was food to process, hides to scrape, a fire to keep. The day held real chores, but here's the difference that matters. None of it was clocked. None of it was bossed. None of it was 8 rigid hours owed to a stranger. The work was woven into the living, not carved out and sold off. And the food itself wasn't a daily emergency. The gathering, mostly done by the women, brought in a steady, reliable base of plants, roots, berries, and nuts, day after day. The hunting, often the men, was the unreliable, high-drama part, big rewards when it worked, nothing when it didn't. But here's the quiet truth that surprises people. In a lot of these groups, the boring, reliable gathered food was the foundation that fed everyone, and the dramatic hunt was almost the bonus. The steady work mattered more than the heroic work. Let that one settle into your Monday. Then there's the part of the day that would look, to your boss, like doing absolutely nothing. And it was the most important part. They talked. Constantly. They sat around and they gossiped. They argued. They told the same stories for the 1,000th time. They teased each other mercilessly. To a modern manager, this looks like wasted hours. It was the opposite of wasted. In a group with no police, no courts, no written law, talk was the law. Gossip was how you found out who was lazy, who was generous, who could be trusted, and who was quietly cheating everyone. Sitting around doing nothing was how the entire society held itself together. The thing you feel guilty about, scrolling, chatting, hanging out, your ancestors did it as a full-time survival strategy. They also did something you'd kill for the freedom to do. In the punishing heat of the afternoon, they stopped, found shade, and they napped. Not as a guilty, stolen break. As the obvious, sensible thing to do when the sun is trying to roast you. The midday nap wasn't laziness. It was scheduling that actually matched the planet you live on. Your body still wants it. That 2:30 crash you fight with coffee is the ancient afternoon, knocking, asking why you ignored it. Quick pause, because here is something to picture. A day where the work is finished by lunch, and the rest is shade, food, friends, stories, and sleep. Keep that picture. Hold on to how it feels. It comes back at the end. There was making things, which never really stopped. A spear point chipped from stone, and it takes real skill, the kind that takes years to learn. A digging stick, smoothed and hardened. A net, a basket, a sling for carrying a baby, a scraper for hides, beads carved from shell and bone. This was the toolmaking and mending that ran quietly under everything, often while the talking and the resting were happening at the same time. They didn't separate work from life. A man could be shaping an arrow and roasting his uncle in the same breath. The job and the hangout were the same event. And then there were the children, which is where the gap between their world and yours gets almost painful. You raise kids in a box. 1 or 2 adults, usually exhausted, usually alone, trying to do a job that was never meant for 2 people. Your ancestors did not do this. A child in a foraging band was raised by the whole band. Anthropologists have a word for it, alloparenting, which just means the child has many parents. Aunts, uncles, older cousins, grandparents, friends, all of them held, fed, watched, and taught the kid. A mother could hand off her baby and go gather, knowing 6 other pairs of hands were ready. The crushing, isolating loneliness of modern parenting, the feeling that it's all on you and there's no village, that's not you being weak. The village was real. You're just living in the rubble of where it used to be. So now you've seen the day, the few hours of finding food, the tool-making woven through it, the long stretches of talk that held everyone together, the nap, the shared children, the stories at night around a fire, which is where the knowledge of the whole group, every plant, every animal, every lesson, got passed down, because there was nothing written and the only library was an old person talking. And here is the honest part, again, so this doesn't drift into a daydream. Their lives were not soft. A bad infection could kill you. A bad winter could starve you. A bad fall could end it all with no doctor for 1,000 miles. They faced danger you will almost certainly never know. But notice the shape of the danger. It was sharp and real, and then it was over. What they did not have was the specific, grinding, low-grade misery you carry, the Sunday dread. The years of your one short life sold off in 8-hour blocks to someone else's purpose. The strange exhaustion of being safe and fed and warm, and still somehow never feeling like your time is your own. So where did your day come from? The alarm, the clock, the 8 hours, the boss? It is shockingly recent. For 300,000 years, humans lived by task and by sun. Then, about 200 years ago, the factory arrived. And the factory had a machine that did not get tired and did not stop. And to feed that machine, it needed humans who would show up at a fixed hour, stay for a fixed number of hours, and treat their own time as something to be clocked, sold, and surrendered. The clock on the wall wasn't built to serve you. It was built to measure you. The 8-hour workday, the thing you've organized your entire existence around, is younger than your country. On the timeline of being human, it arrived about 30 seconds ago. Quick one for you, drop it in the comments. Out of everything your ancestors did with a day, the short workday, the guilt-free afternoon nap, the whole village raising the kids, or just having actual time, which one would you trade your current job for tomorrow? Be honest. Because here's what this all adds up to, and it's the thing worth walking away with. That ache you feel on Sunday night is not a defect in you. It is a memory in you. 300,000 years of waking up free, of working in short bursts and then stopping, of long afternoons and close people, and shared children and time that belong to you. All of that is still wired into your body. And then, in the blink of an evolutionary eye, you were dropped into a world of alarms and clocks and commutes and cubicles that you never adapted to and were never built for. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are a 300,000-year-old creature wearing a 200-year-old costume that doesn't fit, and quietly, every Sunday night, your body is trying to tell you so. You can't go back. The wild that fed them is mostly gone, and their world had its own teeth. But you can stop blaming yourself for being tired in a system that was specifically designed to tire you. You can take the nap. You can protect the afternoon. You can find your village and refuse to raise the kids alone. You can remember that the busy, clocked, sold-off life is the strange new thing, and the part of you that resents it is the oldest, most human part you have. So the next time that Sunday dread creeps in, don't fight it, and don't feel guilty about it. Just listen to it. It's 300,000 years of your ancestors, who never once had a job, whispering that there might be a better way to spend the one short life you were given. If this made you see your own week a little differently, subscribe, because every video here is about exactly this. The buried reasons you are the way you are. And next time, the question that ruins everyone's good mood. Why does time feel like it speeds up as you get older? Your ancestors knew. See you there.